The myth of Amaterasu, the sun goddess and eternal darkness. Imagine a world plunged into eternal darkness. No sunrise, no warmth, no hope. This wasn't some distant apocalyptic future. This was the crisis that faced the ancient world of Japanese mythology when the sun goddess herself decided she'd had enough of her brother's chaos. Picture this. The most powerful goddess in Japanese mythology, Amaterasu, sitting in her heavenly palace, weaving sacred garments for the gods. She's the embodiment of light, order, and civilization, everything that makes the world function. But her peace is about to be shattered by someone who should have been her closest ally, her own brother Susanoo, the god of storms. Now you might be thinking, sibling rivalry? That's nothing new. But trust me, this isn't your typical family drama. This is a tale that would make even the most dramatic HBO series look tame in comparison. It's a story that has shaped Japanese culture for over 2,000 years, influencing everything from imperial succession to modern anime. You see, Susanoo wasn't just having a bad day. He was on a rampage that would make any rock star's hotel room trashing look like child's play. But before we dive into the chaos he unleashed, let's understand why this storm god was so stormy. Susanoo was born from an unusual circumstance. He came into existence when his father, Izanagi, was purifying himself after returning from the land of the dead. While his sister Amaterasu was born from the washing of their father's left eye, representing the sun and heaven, Susanoo emerged from the washing of the nose. Yes, you heard that right, the nose. Perhaps not the most dignified origin story for a god, and maybe that's partly why he had such a chip on his shoulder. Unlike his radiant sister who ruled the heavens with grace and wisdom, Susanoo was given dominion over the seas. But he wasn't content with his lot. He missed his mother, who was trapped in the underworld, and his grief manifested as destructive behavior that would put any teenager's rebellion to shame. At first, his tantrum seemed almost comical. He would cry so much that his tears would dry up rivers and wither mountains. But things were about to get much, much worse. Susanoo decided to pay his sister a visit in the heavenly plane, Takamagahara. Now, visiting your sister might sound innocent enough, but Susanoo's idea of a family reunion was, let's say, unconventional. He burst into the heavenly realm with such force that the mountains shook and the seas roared. Amaterasu, being the diplomatic sister, tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. "Brother," she said, "I hope your intentions are peaceful." Susanoo claimed innocence, but Amaterasu wasn't taking any chances. She armed herself for battle, tying up her long hair in a warrior's knot and strapping on her sword. What followed was a contest of power that would determine whether Susanoo's intentions were pure or malicious. They agreed to create new gods from each other's possessions, a divine test of creativity rather than destruction. Amaterasu took Susanoo's sword and created 3 goddesses by breathing on it. Susanoo took Amaterasu's Magatama beads and created 5 male deities. Both claimed victory, but this competition was just the calm before the storm. Because what Susanoo did next would trigger a chain of events that would threaten the very fabric of existence. His pranks started small, destroying his sister's rice fields, filling in irrigation ditches. But then he went too far. During the harvest festival, when Amaterasu's weaving maidens were carefully crafting sacred garments in the weaving hall, Susanoo committed an act that would echo through the ages. He skinned a heavenly horse, alive, and threw it through the roof of the weaving hall. The horse crashed through, terrifying the weaving maidens. One of them was so startled that she accidentally stabbed herself with her shuttle and died. But this wasn't just any horse. It was a sacred animal of the heavens. And this wasn't just any building. It was where the sacred garments of the gods were made. This act of desecration was the final straw. Amaterasu, the great sun goddess, the most powerful deity in the Japanese pantheon, did something unexpected. She ran away. But not just anywhere. She found a cave, the Ama no Iwato, the heavenly rock cave, sealed herself inside and closed off the entrance with a massive boulder. And just like that, the world was plunged into darkness. Imagine what happens when the sun disappears. Not just for a few hours, but indefinitely. Plants wither. Crops fail. Darkness breeds chaos. This wasn't just a natural disaster. This was a divine crisis that threatened both heaven and earth. With Amaterasu sealed away in her cave, the world faced an unprecedented emergency. Evil spirits, who had previously lurked in the shadows, now roamed freely in the eternal night. The balance between light and dark, order and chaos, had been dramatically upset. This wasn't just about losing daylight. This was about losing hope itself. The gods gathered in panic near the heavenly rock cave. 8 million deities. Yes, you heard that right. 8 million, assembled beside the river of the heavens, the celestial equivalent of a divine emergency meeting. But this wasn't going to be your typical bureaucratic discussion. The gods knew they needed something special, something unprecedented, to lure the sun goddess from her self-imposed exile. This is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Instead of using force or threats, the gods came up with what might be the world's first theatrical production. Leading this divine production was Ame no Uzume, the goddess of dawn and revelry. Think of her as the ultimate divine party planner, but with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Their plan was brilliant in its audacity. First, they gathered roosters from the earthly realm, the birds that would normally crow at dawn. They positioned these birds around the cave, ready to announce a sunrise that wasn't actually happening. Then they took a magnificent sakaki tree and decorated it with brilliant jewels, sacred cloth, and a magical mirror. But the real genius of their plan centered around Ameno Uzumi's performance. She turned an upturned wash tub into a makeshift stage. Yes, a wash tub. This might sound ridiculous, but what happened next would change everything. Ame no Uzumi began what historians might call the world's first striptease. She dressed herself in provocative clothing made from moss and leaves, then started a dance that was both sacred and scandalous. As she danced, she gradually loosened her clothing, sending the assembled gods into fits of laughter. Now, you might be wondering, how would this help? Well, that was exactly the point. The sound of 8 million gods laughing uproariously was bound to make anyone curious, even a deeply offended sun goddess. Inside her cave, Amaterasu couldn't understand what was happening. Here she was, having removed all light from the world, presumably causing grief and despair, and yet she could hear laughter, the sounds of celebration. This didn't make any sense. Finally, she couldn't contain her curiosity any longer. "How can you all be so merry?" she called out from behind the rock, "when I, Amaterasu, am hidden away?" Ame no Uzume, still dancing on her washtub stage, called back with clever deception, "We rejoice because we have found a goddess more radiant than you." This was the ultimate use of reverse psychology. Amaterasu, despite her grief and anger, couldn't bear the thought that someone might have replaced her. She edged closer to the entrance of the cave, still safely behind the massive boulder. "More radiant than me?" she asked. "How is that possible?" The gods had positioned the sacred mirror just outside the cave entrance. As Amaterasu peered out from behind the boulder, she caught a glimpse of brilliant light, her own reflection, though she didn't realize it at first. Fascinated by this mysterious radiance, she stepped out a bit further to get a better look. That's when Ame no Koyane, the god of divine ceremonies, seized the moment. With godlike strength and speed, he reached out and pulled Amaterasu fully from the cave. Behind her, the god Ame no Tajikarao rolled an enormous boulder in front of the entrance, preventing her from retreating back into darkness. Light flooded back into the world. The roosters, right on cue, began to crow. Plants started to grow again, and the evil spirits that had been terrorizing the world slunk back into the shadows. But this wasn't just a story about the return of light. It was about the power of creativity, humor, and art to solve problems that force could never address. The world had light again, but the story doesn't end there. The tale of the heavenly rock cave resonates through Japanese culture even today, its influence extending far beyond just a mythological story. It's a tale that continues to shape modern Japan in fascinating and unexpected ways. Think about it. What started as a divine family drama became the foundation for some of Japan's most important cultural traditions, that sacred mirror that tricked Amaterasu. It became one of the three sacred treasures of Japan, passed down through generations of emperors as symbols of imperial authority. Even today, a replica of this mirror is kept at the Grand Shrine of Ice, Japan's most sacred Shinto shrine. But the influence of this story goes even deeper. Remember Ame no Uzume's dramatic performance? That became the origin story for Kagura, Japan's oldest form of sacred dance theater. Even today, if you visit certain Shinto shrines, you might witness performers in elegant costumes moving to the rhythm of drums and flutes, their movements echoing that first divine performance that saved the world from darkness. The story has also left its mark on Japanese architecture. Many Shinto shrines feature a specific architectural element called the shimenawa, a thick rope made of rice straw that marks sacred spaces. This tradition comes directly from the rope that was hung across the entrance of the heavenly rock cave to prevent Amaterasu from retreating back inside. Next time you see photos of a Japanese shrine with those distinctive twisted ropes, you'll know you're looking at an echo of this ancient tale. And let's talk about that magic mirror for a moment. In traditional Japanese homes, mirrors aren't just for checking your appearance. They're often considered sacred objects that can ward off evil spirits. This belief traces back to that pivotal moment when Amaterasu saw her own reflection. Even today, some Japanese businesses place mirrors in strategic locations, not just for practical purposes, but as subtle nods to this ancient belief in their protective power. The story's themes continue to resonate in modern Japanese pop culture, too. If you've ever wondered why so many anime and manga feature themes of light versus darkness, or why Japanese video games often include plots about restoring balance to a world in chaos, you're seeing echoes of the Ame no Iwato story. The tale has become part of Japan's cultural DNA. But perhaps the most profound legacy of this myth is how it shaped Japanese approaches to conflict resolution. Notice how the gods didn't use force to solve their problem. They didn't try to break down the cave door or drag Amaterasu out against her will. Instead, they used creativity, entertainment, and indirect strategy. This approach, solving problems through indirect means, rather than confrontation, remains a characteristic feature of Japanese social interaction. The story also teaches us something universal about the nature of power. Amaterasu, despite being the most powerful deity, wasn't immune to curiosity or pride. Even gods, it seems, can be motivated by very human emotions. This humanizing element helps explain why these ancient stories still feel relevant today. For modern Japanese people, the tale of the heavenly rock cave isn't just a dusty old myth. It's a living story that continues to provide insights into their cultural identity. When Japanese people see the sun rise over Mount Fuji, or when they tie a sacred rope around a wedding altar, they're connecting with this ancient narrative in ways both conscious and unconscious. And here's something fascinating. Archaeologists have actually found several caves in Japan that various regions claim to be the original Ame no Iwato. The most famous is in Takachiho Gorge in Miyazaki Prefecture, where even today people perform sacred Kagura dances that reenact this ancient drama. The cave itself might be hidden from view, but the story's impact remains visible everywhere you look in Japan. So the next time you see the sunrise, remember this tale. Remember how the world once lost its light, and how it was restored not through force or violence, but through creativity, laughter, and dance. In our modern world, where we often face our own versions of darkness, perhaps there's still wisdom to be found in this ancient story of light returning to the world. Thank you for watching this exploration of one of Japan's most fascinating myths. If you enjoyed learning about the tale of the Heavenly Rock Cave, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from Japanese history and culture. Leave a comment below telling us what aspect of this ancient tale surprised you the most.